There's a moment out on the open savanna when everything goes quiet. Not peaceful quiet, not the quiet of a still morning or a windless afternoon. A different kind of quiet. The kind that happens when every prey animal within half a kilometer has already picked up on something that your human senses are only just beginning to register. The zebras stop grazing. The wildebeest lift their heads in unison. Even the oxpeckers abandon their perches and take to the air without any obvious reason. And then you hear it. Or rather, you feel it first, low and resonant, more vibration than sound, traveling through the ground and up through the soles of your feet before it reaches your ears as the thing it actually is. A whoop, and then another, and then the chaos begins. Because what you are about to witness is not a hunt. It is not a family of spotted animals trotting across the plain in search of a meal. What you are about to witness is something that most wildlife documentaries have never fully captured, something that researchers spent decades trying to understand, something that when you finally comprehend the scale and sophistication of it will make you look at these animals in a way you never have before. What you are about to witness is war. Organized, territorial, strategic, generational war between clans of spotted hyenas who have been fighting over the same boundaries, the same resources, the same corridors of the African landscape for longer than any individual animal can remember, conflicts passed down like inheritance, grudges maintained across generations. Alliances built and tested and sometimes destroyed over years and decades of accumulated history between groups that know each other with a specificity and depth that challenges everything we thought we understood about what it means to have a social memory, to have enemies, to have something worth fighting for. Subscribe right now if you want to understand what is actually happening out there on the savannah, beyond the surface, beyond the postcard version of African wildlife, down to the level of politics and power and survival strategy that makes the natural world as complex and as gripping as anything human beings have ever invented. Let us go. To understand what clan warfare in spotted hyenas actually is, and why it matters, and why it demands the kind of serious attention we give to complex social behavior in any species including our own, we need to start at the beginning. We need to understand what a clan is. And to understand what a clan is, we need to first dismantle almost everything popular culture has told you about hyenas, because almost all of it is wrong, and the wrong version is not just inaccurate, it is the opposite of the truth in ways that are almost comedic in their completeness. Spotted hyenas are not scavengers. They are apex predators among the most successful large predators on the African continent, who kill the overwhelming majority of what they eat and who, when lions steal hyena kills, which is the actual direction in which theft more commonly runs, respond with coordinated mobbing behavior to reclaim their prey. Spotted hyenas are not stupid. They have one of the largest social brains relative to body size of any carnivore on Earth, and their cognitive complexity has been tested in controlled experiments and found to exceed that of chimpanzees in at least some domains of social problem solving. Spotted hyenas are not disorganized, scruffy opportunists lurking at the margins of a landscape dominated by more noble predators. They are the dominant large carnivore in most of their range, the animals around whom the social and ecological dynamics of the savanna actually organize. And spotted hyenas do not live in disorganized packs. They live in clans. That word is important, and it is the right word, because it carries the right connotations of something ancient and structured and defined by bloodlines and territorial claims and social hierarchies that have been elaborated over time into something genuinely complex. A spotted hyena clan is a matrilineal society. Females dominate males at every rank of the hierarchy. The lowest-ranking female in a clan outranks the highest-ranking male. A cub born to a high-ranking female inherits her social position, learning from the moment of birth through constant social interaction and observation, where it stands relative to every other individual in the group, absorbing the map of the social hierarchy the way it absorbs everything else about its environment, through experience, through watching, through the accumulated information of living inside a complex social world every day of its life. Clans in the Serengeti ecosystem, where some of the longest-running hyena research has been conducted, can range in size from fewer than 10 individuals to well over 100. The average in high-density prey areas tends to be larger, because more food means more animals can be sustained in a given territory, and the territories of large clans are both a resource and a responsibility, enormous areas of land that must be patrolled, marked, defended, and where the boundaries must be communicated to rivals through a constant ongoing process of scent marking, vocalization, and the kind of physical presence that signals, in a language older than any human tongue, that this ground is claimed and its claimants are watching. And those borders, those territorial boundaries between adjacent clans, are not peaceful borders. They are contested frontiers, the sites of most of the serious conflict that occurs within hyena society, and the history of any given border between any two adjacent clans is written in the accumulated events of many years, the skirmishes and the standoffs and the shifts in territory that follow changes in clan size and power. Because the fundamental currency of hyena clan conflict is not individual strength, it is numbers, and that is where the story gets genuinely extraordinary. The spotted hyena figured out something about collective conflict that took human military strategists millennia to formalize into doctrine. Numbers dominate. Coordination multiplies numbers. And information about the enemy's numbers, gathered in real time from acoustic signals, is the decisive variable in determining whether to fight or flee. In a landmark study that transformed how scientists understood hyena social cognition, researchers demonstrated that individual hyenas were not just listening to rival vocalizations as simple threat signals. They were counting. They were assessing the number of callers they heard against the number of individuals in their own group at that moment, performing a rapid numerical comparison and making a tactical decision based on the result. If their side had the advantage in numbers, they advanced. If their side was outnumbered, they withdrew. And the threshold was not even close. They needed to feel confident of their superiority before committing to engagement, because the cost of getting it wrong, of misreading the enemy's strength and advancing into a situation where you are outnumbered, is not just losing a fight. It can be death. Let that sink in for a moment. A spotted hyena, an animal that the popular imagination still occasionally depicts as a mangy scavenger, was doing real-time numerical assessment of hostile forces and making probabilistic tactical decisions about engagement based on the calculation. Not instinct, not a binary flee or fight response. A calculation, a comparison of numbers, a decision based on the assessment of relative strength. The kind of decision that any military commander in the history of human warfare would recognize immediately as the fundamental question of every engagement. Do we have enough? Now let us talk about what actually happens when the clans meet. The territory of a hyena clan is not a fixed and permanent thing. It breathes. It expands when the clan is strong and numerous, when prey is abundant and cubs are surviving to adulthood in high numbers, when the hierarchy is stable and the adult females at the top of the rank structure are in their prime. It contracts when the clan loses members, whether to natural mortality, to predation, to disease, or to the violence of rival clans. And the territorial breathing of adjacent clans is always in relationship, a dynamic that means the boundary between any two clans is a slow negotiation conducted over years, with the language of scent marks and vocalizations and physical incursions and the memory of past confrontations. The communal den is the sacred center of a hyena clan's territorial existence. It is where cubs are born and raised, where the youngest and most vulnerable members of the clan spend their days while their mothers are out hunting, where the social life of the clan concentrates in the hours before and after dark. The greetings and the status performances, and the vocalizations that maintain the cohesion of a group that may be spread across dozens of square kilometers during the night's hunt, but must function as a coordinated unit when the borders are threatened. The defense of the communal den is the most intense and the most non-negotiable of all territorial behaviors. Rival clans that approach a communal den are not approaching a resource that can be abandoned or traded away. They are approaching the survival of the next generation, and the response is accordingly total. What triggers a clan war? Not a single incursion, not a misunderstanding at a territorial boundary. The dynamics that lead to what researchers have documented as sustained intergroup conflict, the kind that unfolds over months or years and results in significant changes to territorial boundaries and clan membership, are more complex than a single triggering event. They are the accumulated product of demographic shifts, of resource availability, of individual decision-making within a dominance hierarchy, and of what we might as well call opportunity, the moment when one clan's strength and another clan's vulnerability align in a way that makes expansion possible and worth the cost of conflict. The Serengeti ecosystem contains some of the most intensively studied hyena clans in the world, and the data that has accumulated from decades of continuous observation by researchers at long-term field stations gives us a picture of territorial dynamics that is striking in its complexity. There are clans that have held essentially the same core territory for multiple decades, their boundaries shifting at the margins as fortunes change, but their central stronghold persistent across many generations of individual animals. There are boundaries between specific clans that have been contested for longer than any living hyena can remember, where the physical markers of past conflict, old kill sites, remembered denning areas, the routes of traditional patrol paths, are embedded in the behavioral geography of animals who never witnessed the original events that made those places significant. This is cultural knowledge. It is the transmission of information about the social environment from older animals to younger ones through a process of social learning, through accompaniment on boundary patrols, through observation of how adults behave when they encounter signs of a specific rival clan, through the accumulated behavioral cues that tell a young animal which directions are safe and which directions are dangerous, and which clan's marks demand the most urgent response. The young hyena learning to be a member of its clan is learning not just the physical geography of its territory, but the social history that makes certain places and certain encounters carry the weight they carry. It is learning who its enemies are and why they are enemies, not in any abstract sense, but in the entirely practical sense of which scent marks trigger alarm responses, and which neighboring individuals it has seen its mother respond to with aggression, and which boundary areas always seem to produce the most tense and alert behavior in the adults around it. Now let me take you to a specific kind of event, the kind that researchers call a border war, not because that is a technical term from the scientific literature, though the substance of what it describes is thoroughly documented, but because it captures better than any more neutral language what these encounters actually look like and what they cost. Picture a large hyena clan, call them the Northern Clan, holding a territory that encompasses a section of river frontage, the kind of resource that in a savanna ecosystem is not equally distributed, water being the organizing principle around which prey animals and the predators who follow them concentrate. The river frontage is productive. It pulls game into the Northern Clan's territory with a regularity that supports a large clan membership, and the large membership in turn supports the defense of the territory that contains the resource. It is a virtuous cycle of territorial control, and the numbers of the controlling clan is what maintains it. To the south of the Northern Clan's territory, sharing a boundary that runs along a ridge of higher ground between two drainage systems, is a smaller clan. They have been there for years. The boundary has been relatively stable, contested in the normal ongoing way of hyena territorial dynamics, regular patrol pressure, occasional skirmishes at the marked lines, the standard background of intergroup tension that never fully resolves and never fully escalates to something catastrophic. But in a relatively short period of time, a series of events in the Southern Clan create a vulnerability that the Northern Clan, not through any conscious strategic planning, but through the aggregated individual decisions of its members, begins to exploit. The Southern Clan loses its highest-ranking female. She is old and she declines over several months, and when she dies the hierarchy of the Southern Clan enters a period of instability as the rank relationships below her are renegotiated through a series of confrontations and displays and reversals that are, for a period of months, consuming enormous social energy within the clan. At the same time, two of the clan's most experienced adult males are killed, one by a lion, one in a fight with a rival clan on the opposite border of their territory. The Southern Clan is simultaneously reorganizing its internal hierarchy, grieving in the behavioral sense of adjusting to absences, and losing the experienced members whose knowledge of borders and patrol routes and the specific behavioral signatures of rivals was part of the clan's collective capacity to maintain its territorial position. The Northern Clan does not receive a memo about this. There is no intelligence service passing reports across the border. What happens is something subtler and more interesting. The patrol behavior of Northern Clan members along the shared border begins to detect a reduced frequency of fresh scent marks from the Southern Clan. The olfactory landscape of the border zone, which is normally maintained by both sides through regular marking, begins to drift toward the Northern Clan's chemical signatures and away from the Southern Clan's. The information is carried in molecules in the relative freshness and frequency of scent marks, and what it communicates to any Northern Clan member crossing the border zone is, the pressure from the other side has decreased, the maintenance of the contested space has slipped. And in hyena territorial behavior, a maintained border is a claimed border, and an undermaintained border is an invitation. The incursions begin small. A Northern Clan patrol crosses further than usual into what has been Southern territory, is met with no response and returns. The scent marks they leave behind change the chemical balance of that zone further. Another patrol follows the same route and goes further still. The Southern Clan, stretched thin and internally disorganized, responds to these incursions inconsistently. Sometimes a group of Southern Clan animals turns up at the new Northern marks and remarks over them with maximum possible scent deposition, the hyena equivalent of an angry letter, but the response is not backed by a physical presence sufficient to enforce it, and the northern clan's subsequent patrols find the countermarks but continue to push. Then comes the first serious physical engagement. A group of 8 northern clan animals, all adult females with their cubs staying safe at the den, encounters 3 southern clan animals in what has until recently been unambiguously southern territory. The numerical calculus is immediate and automatic. 3 cannot hold against 8. The 3 southern animals flee. The northern group chases them for a distance, not to kill if they can be avoided, though injury is a real possibility in these chases and occasionally animals do die, but to chase, to pursue, to physically impress on the retreating animals and on the landscape itself through the scent marks and the claw marks, and the presence of the encounter, the fact that this space is now contested in a new and more serious way. The den, this is where clan warfare reaches its most brutal and most consequential dimension. Because when a clan's territory is shrinking, when the pressure from a more numerous rival is pushing the boundary inward, eventually the pressure reaches the communal den. And this is not a neutral resource. The communal den is where the cubs are, the cubs who represent the future of the clan. The cubs who are not yet old enough to survive independently, who depend on the adults returning from the night's hunting to nurse, who are beginning the long process of learning the social world they have been born into. When a rival clan reaches the communal den, the nature of the conflict changes. Intrusion on a communal den is a genocide event. That word is not being used loosely or for dramatic effect. That word is being used because what happens when a dominant rival clan overruns a smaller clan's communal den is the systematic killing of cubs, the death of the next generation, the elimination not just of the current animals but of the future membership of the clan. This is documented behavior. It has been observed in multiple hyena populations across Africa. It has been filmed, recorded, analyzed. When rival adult females reach a communal den undefended or underdefended, they kill the cubs there. Not because of hunger, they are not eating the cubs in any sustained way, because killing the cubs eliminates future competitors. Because the future members of a rival clan are, from the perspective of the attacking clan's reproductive interest, exactly that. Future rivals for the same territory and the same prey and the same water and the same everything that makes survival possible on the savanna. This is not accidental. This is not a byproduct of aggression that escalated out of control. The targeting of cubs at communal dens is a strategic behavior in the deepest sense. It attacks the enemy's capacity to reproduce, to sustain its numbers, to recover from its losses. It is the same logic that has driven human armies to target enemy populations at the most vulnerable rather than simply the most armed. It is ugly. It is, by the standards we apply to human behavior, atrocious. And it is devastatingly effective. A clan whose communal den has been successfully raided by a rival, whose cubs have been killed or scattered, faces a recovery timeline that is measured not in weeks but in years. A female hyena's reproductive cycle means that the gap between a lost litter and the next surviving litter is substantial. The clan needs time to regroup, to establish a new denning site, to produce new cubs, and raise them to the age where they begin to contribute to the clan's collective capacity. During that recovery time, the rival clan that successfully raided continues to grow its numbers, continues to extend its territorial control, continues to push the boundary further in the direction it has already been moving. The gap between winner and loser, between attacker and defender, widens during exactly the period when the loser is least able to close it. This is why the outcome of a single season of concentrated pressure, the kind of pressure that a large and numerically dominant clan can bring to bear on a smaller rival experiencing a period of internal disruption, can determine territorial configurations that persist for years or decades. The thing that gets won or lost is not just a stretch of land. It is a demographic trajectory. It is the difference between a clan on an upward path of growth and territorial consolidation and a clan on a downward path of shrinkage and eventual dissolution. Because clans can dissolve, this is the extreme end of the spectrum of outcomes in clan conflict, and it is rarer than boundary shifts or communal den raids, but it happens, and when it happens it is one of the more extraordinary events in the social ecology of the savanna. A clan that loses its territory, that loses its denning sites, that loses too many adult females to maintain any coherent social structure, can reach a point where it ceases to function as a clan at all. The remaining animals are not immediately dead, but they are in a situation that is, in the medium term, nearly equivalent, because without territory, without access to the prey that territory contains, without the communal defense capacity of a functioning clan to resist further predation and harassment, the individual animals are vulnerable in a way that individual animals in a landscape like the Serengeti cannot be for long. What happens to the animals of a dissolved clan is one of the more revealing windows into the social architecture of hyena society. Dispersal in spotted hyenas is primarily a male behavior under normal circumstances. Males disperse from their natal clan at sexual maturity and seek to join another clan, where they will rank at the bottom of the male hierarchy, but will have opportunities to mate that they do not have in their own clan where they grew up with all the females and are constrained by the social relationships of the natal environment. Female spotted hyenas do not normally disperse. They stay in the clan they were born into and they inherit their rank and they spend their lives within the territory their mothers lived in and their grandmothers lived in before them. But when a clan dissolves, the females have no choice. They must either die in place or move, and moving means entering the territory of an adjacent clan as subordinate individuals without the backing of their own social group. The reception they receive from the resident clan varies. In some documented cases, females from dissolved or nearly dissolved clans have been accepted into the victorious clan over time, slotting into the bottom of the existing hierarchy, losing their previous status entirely, becoming in effect immigrants in a society that sorts every individual by a rank that is inherited from their mother, and that they, having no mother in this clan and no birth history within it, must build from nothing. It is a social fall of absolute magnitude, from member of a landed clan with a territorial position and a network of social relationships built over a lifetime to immigrant with no claim on anything, tolerated at the margins of a society that is not their own. The calves and cubs that survive a dissolved clan's collapse face an even harder transition. Young animals who have not yet learned the full territorial map, who are still in the process of absorbing the social world around them, who depend on adult females for nutrition and protection, are in extraordinary peril when the adult structure collapses. Some attach themselves to surviving adult females from their own clan and follow them wherever those females go. Some die alone on the wrong side of a border they do not yet fully understand. Let us zoom out now from the mechanism of the conflict and look at what these wars are actually about, because the territorial battles of hyena clans are not just about land in the abstract. They are about specific resources embedded in that land, and understanding which resources matter most and why they matter most is what transforms the territorial map of the savanna from a set of seemingly arbitrary animal territories into a legible landscape of competing interests that follows an internal logic as coherent as the economic geography of any human city. Water is the organizing principle. Not every territory is equal, and the inequality of territories in the savanna is primarily a function of their relationship to water. River frontage, access to seasonal pans, proximity to permanent water sources that sustain prey populations through the dry season when the rest of the landscape is baking and desiccated, these are the premium resources around which clan territories organize. The clans with the best water access have the most reliable prey base, which supports the largest memberships, which in turn supports the ability to hold the territory against rivals who want it. It is a hierarchy of ecological quality expressed as a hierarchy of clan power, and the warfare that maintains or challenges that hierarchy is at its core, a contest over the distribution of life-sustaining resources in a landscape where those resources are not evenly distributed. Prey migration routes are the second great organizing principle. The great migrations of wildebeest and zebra and Thompson's gazelle across the Serengeti ecosystem are not random wandering. They are the product of the seasonal cycle of grass growth following rainfall, and they are predictable enough that the animals who live in this landscape year-round, including the hyenas, have organized their territorial claims partly around the routes that the migrating herds use and the timing of their use. A territory that intersects a major migration corridor during the season when the herds are moving through it is, for those months, an extraordinarily rich territory, supporting hunting success that would be impossible in the same place at other times of year. The clans that control migration corridor access have a seasonal advantage that translates into better-fed cubs and larger adult membership and more sustainable territorial defense. Den sites are the third element. Good den sites are not uniformly available across the savanna. The physical requirements for a hyena communal den, which is typically a system of burrows that the hyenas did not dig themselves but appropriated from the original excavators such as warthogs or aardvarks, are specific. The soil must be the right consistency to support burrow integrity. The site must have good sight lines in multiple directions to allow early detection of approaching threats. It should ideally have some topographic feature, a rocky outcrop, a slight elevation, a dense stand of vegetation that provides defensive advantage or concealment. Good den sites are used repeatedly across generations, and the history of use concentrates in specific locations within a clan's territory, creating a kind of sacred geography of places that have been home to generations of young animals and that carry, in the behavior of adult animals, the weight of that long association. These are the places that adult females will defend with a ferocity that goes beyond the normal calculus of cost and benefit that governs most animal conflict behavior, because what is being defended is not just a burrow system. It is the future. Now let us talk about intelligence, because the word means something specific in the context of hyena clan warfare, and it is not being used loosely. The information processing that individual hyenas perform in the context of intergroup conflict is not reflexive. It is not instinctive in the simple sense. It involves the integration of multiple information streams in real time to produce a behavioral decision that depends on context in ways that simple rules cannot capture. Consider the information that a hyena on a border patrol is simultaneously processing. The olfactory landscape of the border zone itself, which tells the animal not just that rivals have been present but which individuals were present, based on the specific chemical signature of individual scent marks, how long ago they were there, roughly how many of them there were, and whether the pattern of marking has changed since the last patrol, indicating increased or decreased investment in territorial advertisement by the rival clan. The acoustic landscape, which carries information about the location and number of rival animals if any are currently present, and which can be analyzed for the specific individual voices of known rivals, because hyenas in long-term social groups know the calls of specific individuals in neighboring clans, having heard them repeatedly across years of border encounters. The visual landscape, which in daylight provides direct information about rival presence and in the shifting light of dawn and dusk provides partial information that must be integrated with the olfactory and acoustic data to form a complete picture. And crucially, the internal social information. How many members of its own clan are currently present in the border zone, which ones they are, what their rank is, what the collective fighting capacity of the present animals is relative to what the current acoustic and olfactory data suggests about the rival clan's likely response capacity. All of this is happening continuously, dynamically updated as the animal moves through the environment, and the behavioral decisions that result from this integration are not binary. They are graduated. An animal that detects rival presence but has strong numerical backing from its own clan members nearby will behave differently from the same animal detecting the same rival signals while alone or in a small group. The decision to advance or to withdraw, to mark aggressively or to mark minimally and move away, to call loudly or to maintain silence, all of these are functions of the combined information picture, and getting the assessment wrong has consequences that the animal has experienced firsthand in previous encounters. The cognitive capacity required to hold this picture, update it, and generate appropriate decisions in real time is substantial, and it is what makes hyena territorial behavior something that genuinely demands to be described in terms of intelligence rather than simply instinct. The vocal arsenal of the spotted hyena is inseparable from this intelligence story. The sounds that spotted hyenas make are extraordinary in their range and their information content, and the most famous of them, the one that gave the hyena its enduring association in human culture with madness and chaos, the laugh, is in fact one of the most information-rich vocalizations produced by any non-human carnivore, and it has almost nothing to do with happiness or amusement. The giggle, as it is sometimes technically described, is a signal of excitement and frustration and submission and social tension, produced most intensely in contexts of conflict over food and in social encounters where the animal is under pressure. It is a real-time social signal. When a hyena laughs during a feeding frenzy at a large kill, it is broadcasting its location to other clan members and communicating its level of excitement and its social position relative to the other animals present. It is social media, instantaneous and honest, carrying information that other clan members read and respond to. The whoop is the long-distance contact call, the one that carries over kilometers of open savanna, and that, when it is produced repeatedly and urgently, serves as a rallying call that can draw clan members toward a specific location from distances that seem almost impossibly large. The specific acoustic properties of the whoop, the way it rises in pitch at the end of the call, appear to be specifically designed by evolutionary selection to carry maximum distance across open terrain. And the whoop carries individual identity, the voice print of the specific caller embedded in the acoustic signal, so that any animal within earshot knows not just that there is a hyena whooping, but which hyena it is, and what that specific individual's history and social position implies about what the call means. The groan, the grunt, the growl, the giggle, the whoop, the fast whoop, the lowing call of cubs waiting at the den, the escalating vocalizations of a large group working themselves into a collective state of arousal before a border confrontation, each of these has a specific social function and a specific informational content, and together they constitute a communication system of genuine sophistication. Hyena researcher who has spent years with a specific clan will tell you that the acoustic texture of the clan's territory, the pattern of calls and silences across a night of observation, tells a story of social events and territorial pressures and individual relationships that would require pages of field notes to transcribe into human language. The hyenas themselves are reading that story in real time, processing it with a fluency that reflects a lifetime of living inside it. Let us come back now to the specific scenario of a successful clan expansion, because the period after a major territorial shift is as revealing as the shift itself, and it tells us something important about how these social structures maintain themselves over time and how the costs of conflict are eventually absorbed and what happens to the winners as well as the losers. A clan that has successfully expanded its territory through sustained pressure on a weakened rival faces a new set of challenges immediately. The new territory must be incorporated into the patrolling and marking behavior of the expanded clan. The borders of the new area must be established in relationship with whatever neighbors exist on that side, which may themselves be watching the expansion with attention and concern, calculating whether it represents a threat to their own territorial positions. The communal dens of the acquired territory, if they are being used, must be either adopted by the expanding clan or rendered unusable to the remnant population of the displaced clan. The expanding clan must maintain all of this while also maintaining its existing territory on all other sides, because expanding in one direction does not reduce the territorial obligations in the other directions. The northern border, the eastern border, the western border, all of these still exist and all of them still require the same investment of patrol time and marking behavior and the readiness to respond to incursions. Territorial expansion is not free. It is a commitment of resources, of time, of attention, of the energy that every adult animal in the clan must allocate between the activities of hunting and feeding and raising young and maintaining social relationships within the clan, and performing the external territorial work that keeps the clan's domain intact. Clans that expand faster than their membership can sustain the expanded territory sometimes find themselves stretched thin in exactly the same way that empires have historically discovered the cost of overextension. The recovery of a displaced clan, when it happens at all, is a study in gradual reconstruction. It requires first the survival and grouping of enough adult females to constitute a functioning social unit. Because without adult females there is no clan hierarchy, no communal denning system, no cohesive group behavior that can be applied to territorial defense. It requires the survival of at least some experienced animals who know the landscape, who carry the cognitive map of the territory in their memory, who remember which trails connect which water sources and where the prey aggregates in the dry season, and which border zones are most likely to see rival patrols. It requires time, the long biological time of gestation and cub rearing and the slow accumulation of juvenile animals into the adult membership that makes a clan viable. And it requires, often, a corresponding moment of vulnerability on the side of the clan that displaced them. A drought that devastates the prey base, a disease that runs through the